It's Wednesday, July 30th, 2025. Good evening and welcome to the daily happenings in the DC swamp, our federal government and politicians. This is Spathon. Earthquake, tsunami, volcano eruption, the geological trifecta. It's the biggest earthquake the planet has seen since March 11th of 2011, and it's the sixth largest earthquake on record. The tsunami, though, it showed up, but it wasn't as catastrophic as they feared, but we'll check it out. The Federal Reserve announced today that they are not adjusting interest rates. Also, the US GDP increased to 3% for quarter two of 2025, which was higher than expected. And also, Emil Bove was confirmed to the Federal Third Circuit Court, and Democrats are all pissed off about it. By the way, I'm horrible with names. Not sure if I pronounced it correctly, but we'll check it out regardless. Also, Eric Swallwell stands on the graves of those who died in the New York shooting the other day by calling for more gun control. Also, President Trump imposed a new 40% tariff on Brazilian imports, and he also announced progress on other tariffs, which we'll go over too. And President Trump also signs the VA Home Loan Program Reform Act. And there's plenty of other things to get into. So first, I'll start with this. The U.S. West Coast, Hawaii, and Alaska were impacted by tsunami waves after a massive quake off of Russia, 8.8 magnitude quake. Now, I'm going to jump over to this one because it covers the volcano. Volcano in Russia's far east erupts after a huge Pacific earthquake. Kluchevsky volcano, I actually looked up how to pronounce that. I think I got it right. Kluchevsky or Kluchevskoy volcano erupted. 8.8 magnitude earthquake caused tsunami waves in the Pacific. Russia's Kluchevsky volcano has erupted on the, I did not look up how to pronounce that one, Kamchatka. Did I get that right? Kamchatka Peninsula, following a powerful earthquake in the Pacific on Wednesday. Matter of fact, I can actually point that out on a map. It's that really big peninsula that's right across the water from Alaska over on the Russian side. Very distinct, very noticeable. Anyway, scientists described the descent of burning hot lava down the slopes of one of the world's highest active volcanoes, hours after a huge 8.8 magnitude earthquake rocked the region and prompted tsunami waves in the Pacific. Kluchevsky, which has erupted several times over recent years, is located approximately 450 kilometers or 280 miles north of Petropavlovsk, Kamchatsky, the regional capital. Obviously, I don't speak Russian. I don't know if you can tell or not. So the Russian Academy of Sciences United Geophysical Service confirmed the eruption, stating on Telegram, quote, "A descent of burning hot lava is observed on the western slope. Powerful glow above the volcano and explosions." Wednesdays, oh yeah, there's the volcano there for your viewing pleasure. It's one of the highest active volcanoes in the world, which erupted in the words that I'm going to refrain from attempting to pronounce because I suck so bad at it. But apparently there's 4 photos here. Let's see if yeah, here we go. Okay, so that's an image of the tsunami that was washing on shore in Russia, which happened to be during the daytime. The tsunami impacted Hawaii at night, so the footage wasn't too great, at least from what I found. I did find a few video clips, and I will show that. Even though it's not nearly as dramatic as the tsunami that was experienced in 2004, also in 2011. The one in 2011, it was extremely highly documented, videoed. If you go on YouTube and you type in Japan tsunami or March 11th, 2011, whatever you do, to search for it, you'll come up with hundreds, if not thousands, of different views of that tsunami. The Japanese, they filmed it from every fucking where. Everywhere. So anyway, let's see here. So Wednesday's 8.8 magnitude quake off Kamchatka damaged buildings and injured several people in the remote Russian region, but no fatalities were reported. The tsunami danger already appeared to be lessening in some places, with authorities downgrading their warnings in Hawaii, Japan, and parts of Russia. Residents fled inland as ports flooded on Kamchatka near the quake's epicenter, while frothy white waves washed up on the shore in northern Japan. Cars jammed streets and highways in Honolulu with standstill traffic even in areas away from the sea. Yeah, that's a different view. That's a different image view. So people flocked to evacuation centers in affected areas of Japan with memories fresh from the 2011 earthquake and tsunami that caused reactor meltdowns at a nuclear power plant, Fukushima Daiichi to be specific. No abnormalities in operations at Japan's nuclear plants were reported Wednesday. Yeah, so I remember the Japanese earthquake so well because my best friend, when I was a teenager, he died in a car accident when he was 16. Well, when we were 16. And that happened on the 10th anniversary to the day because he died on March 11th of 2001. So that was precisely the 10 years to the day since he passed away. So that's why the Japanese earthquake, it's tattooed in my memory because of that. At least that's what I attribute it to. So, and I just happened to watch it live when it was happening. Like here in Eastern time in the United States, when that tsunami was washing on shore, it was like 1:30 in the morning. And I just so happened to be at a friend's house. Well, not just so happened. We were there because, reminiscing and whatnot. And I just happened to be there extra late watching TV, and they interrupted it with that footage. So we got to see all that happening live. That was absolutely wild. But anyway, so people flocked. Let's see. I think we already read that. Yeah. So the tsunami height of 3 to 4 meters, 10 to 13 feet was recorded in Kamchatka, 60 centimeters, 2 feet on Japan's northern island of Hokkaido, while tsunami waves about 2 to 5 feet high reached San Francisco early Wednesday. I want to say that I read somewhere that Hawaii received a tsunami of 6 feet, although, the footage that I saw, it didn't appear to be just this 6-foot wall of water. It just looked like a relative gradual rising and then receding of the water, kind of like imagine like high tide, but in fast motion. I mean, not super fast motion, but kind of like a time-lapse version of the high tide moving in, more or less. But anyway, much of the West Coast, spanning California, Oregon, Washington State, and the Canadian province of British Columbia, were under a tsunami advisory. Hawaii was still under a tsunami advisory as Wednesday began, but evacuation orders on the Big Island and Oahu, the most populated island, had been lifted. The impact of the tsunami could last for hours or perhaps more than a day, said Dave Snyder, tsunami warning coordinator with the National Tsunami Warning Center in Alaska. Yeah, if you ever watch an animated image of a tsunami, especially the one from either 2011 or 2004, I believe over on Wikipedia, if you look up those tsunamis, they actually have the animated on a map or on the globe as to how it sweeps across the Pacific. Once it impacts a coast, it basically bounces off that coast and it travels back in the opposite direction. So the tsunami just ripples and bounces from one landmass to the next as it, over hours and hours, just slowly kind of fizzles out, kind of dissolves away over time. But a tsunami is not just one wave, he said. It's a series of powerful waves over a long period of time. Tsunamis across the ocean at hundreds of miles an hour, as fast as a jet airplane in deep water. But when they get close to the shore, they slow down and start to pile up. And that's where that inundation problem becomes a little bit more possible there. Danila Krybov, director of Kamchatka's branch of the Geophysical Service, said on Telegram, aftershocks are currently ongoing. Their intensity will remain fairly high. However, stronger tremors are not expected in the near future. No one has been seriously injured, and there haven't been reports of major damage, with the level of danger already appearing to be lessening in some places. Parts of Japan have downgraded warnings, while authorities on the Kamchatka Peninsula have canceled their tsunami warning. Chile, they've upgraded its warning to the highest level for most of its Pacific coast and is now evacuating hundreds of people. Wow, so Chile, they're getting it much later. I mean, of course, they're on the other side of the planet, from north to south, of course. French Polynesia, authorities warn residents of some of the remote Marquesas Islands to move to higher ground and expect waves as high as 8 feet as waves started to hit some islands in the early hours of Wednesday. I wonder about that island, Kiribati. Kiribati is almost dead at sea level, so I wonder if they were hit, but they don't mention Kiribati. But I do know that that's an island that is, it's like one, the entire island is like 1 foot above sea level, something like that. It's extreme. It's like right at sea level. So hopefully nothing catastrophic happened there. I think if it did, it would have been mentioned in the article. But so that's what we got there. So this is some of the videos sailing. No, that one's actually that's pertaining to a hurricane that I watched earlier. This is my search history because I was trying to get something good. I watched several of these and I just couldn't I couldn't get anything dramatic. So let me just go to the one. Let's see. Let's try this one first. Floodwater in Hawaii from Tsunami. Raw video. Let's give this a play. Hopefully it's not loud. I don't think it is. It's just some regular private citizen who's just there filming it. Let's see here. Yeah, it's actually extremely quiet. Do I got my volume down? No, volume's up.
You guys too?
I don't know, man. I'm not hearing anything. Apparently, there's no volume. Well, it's registering on my... All right. Anyway, yeah, so you can see that it's receded out, as tsunamis do.
That is,
Yeah, I see the boats are lower. I believe they said that the water receded up to 15 feet in Hawaii. It definitely looked like it did. I mean, look how low that is out there. Hold on. Here, let me go back and pause that. See if you can get a decent view of it. Yeah, right here. So you can see, I don't know, what appears to be sandy. That's not a beach. This is in a marina. And I believe the boat ramp was right over here. So you see the rocks on the bottom exposed and all that. And I doubt the water level gets up that high. Maybe high tide it might get almost that high. So, I mean, it definitely looks like that it's receded significantly. So, but you don't really see a wall of water coming in, which is what I was trying to find. But I don't think it was that kind of a tsunami. You know what I mean? I don't think it was that intense. That it more or less just gently rolled in. So, let me see. I will show that. I mean, you think that they would have showed the most dramatic footage on the news article. So I'll just, or on a news clip. Let me see. Which one do I want to go with? Let's go with this one. Let's go with News Nation first. Let me just open a new tab. That way I don't have to scroll down again. All right. Let's see here.
Nick's tracking this for us and just watched
there we go.
the
There's
news
the sound.
conference as well. Nick, get us up.
Matter of fact, I believe, I mean, I'm looking at OBS, and it did show that there was sound coming through from the last video, but I'm half deaf, so I don't have a left earbud or headphones, so I'm assuming it was mono. The sound was probably only coming through one side and not through both sides. So in case you're wondering, like what the fuck's he talking about? There was sound there. That was probably it. It was probably coming through my left ear, which didn't register to me. All right, so let's check this out.
At this hour.
Marky, good morning. This remains an active situation. In fact, the defense, the director for the state of Hawaii,
14 years since the last
just wrapped up a press conference saying that they are downgrading this situation, but it remains one that they're keeping a close eye on. The West Coast, including Alaska and Canada, on high alert this morning, bracing for more of these strong waves. Some have already hit the mainland.
It could be another strong earthquake, potentially.
In Crescent City in Northern California. This earthquake is tied for the 6th largest in history.
It's tied.
Right now, you're taking another live look at the coast of Honolulu, Hawaii.
6. See, I told you.
Right now, where National Weather Service downgraded the tsunami warning to an advisory just before we came to air. But officials warn it could be hours before that's lifted, and folks can start returning to their homes in the danger zone.
That's
and
a
right
picture.
Now
That's not a video.
At the Port of Los Angeles over in LA.
Port of
the
LA.
city expecting a wave surge of
Long
less
Beach?
than 1 foot. The city urging residents and workers to avoid the water line and follow official instructions because the area could still see strong rip currents this morning. Waves started battering Russia's Far East last
Holy
night.
shit.
Here you see buildings floating in the water as floodwaters washed
Oh,
inland.
wow, man. That's like Japan all over again.
Peninsula
You can actually see it moving in.
Saw waves as high as 13 feet after that
snap.
quake. Again, officials are
13
telling
feet.
people across Hawaii and the West Coast to stay away from beaches and waterways because currents and strong waves can still be dangerous, especially
I hope everybody
during
got out
high
of Dodge
tide
over
market.
there.
They fear that water comes up. People think it's okay, but it stays there too long and comes back down, and that's the danger.
Yeah, got to heat.
I mean, it hit right off the coast of Russia, so they probably didn't have that much time. I'm assuming they had enough time to at least get away from the immediate coastline. But I mean, anytime that I hear tsunami, it always reminds me of that movie Escape from LA, when a dude grabbed his surfboard off the top of his, whatever that vehicle was, a Jeep or whatever. It's like, tsunami, snake, tsunami. Anyway, so there's that. And I mean, I guess I'll just play this one. I mean, I already got it here. it's probably just going to be basically more or less the same information, but maybe they'll show a little bit of extra footage here. I watched
here
it.
Here at 7-Eleven on the East Coast, we do want to get back to the very latest of that massive earthquake that triggered a global tsunami warnings. Take a look at your screen, the latest video that has been compiled from across the globe. Tsunami waves continue across the Pacific this Wednesday after impacting Hawaii, and they begin to slam the coasts of Washington, California, and Oregon early this Wednesday morning. In California, a tsunami with a 3.6-foot wave amplitude was reported in Crescent City, with a 3-foot wave amplitude in Arena Cove. A 1.6-foot wave amplitude was reported in Point Reyes, and a 1.4-foot wave amplitude was reported in Monterey. And as we are discussing California, I want to share with you the very latest from the National Weather Service San Diego. They put this out on X early this Wednesday. They say the first tsunami waves have reached La Jolla shores as of 1:45 a.m., registering around 0.36 feet. For areas upstream, the first waves haven't been the biggest, with arrival of additional waves for 6 or more hours after the initial wave. So just providing some context with that. We also have the very latest from the National Weather Service Bay Area on X as well. They say same story with San Francisco, where we are now seeing tidal swings of 2 to 2.5 feet in as little as 15 minutes. They can create some seriously dangerous currents along beaches and harbors. It's just a good idea to stay away from the water today. Great advice there. And as we are discussing the Bay Area, I want to give you a live look there, 7:12 here on the East Coast, 4:13 Pacific time, and you can see a live look at the waterways. Just want to provide that live look for you so you can see what many are calling the calm before the storm. And as we continue to get the latest from the National Weather Service, we now transition to the National Weather Service Los Angeles on X, as they say the Port St. Louis gauge shows a rapid and damaging surge going from low to high tide in just a few minutes. They say do not return to inundated areas as waters will recede.
Yeah, it looks like that hit during high tide
multiple times through the next 24 hours.
That's what the blue
and
is.
The first wave may not be the largest.
Predictions. Water levels.
As we are discussing that from the LA area, we do have this live look. It takes us out to the Santa Monica Pier, giving you a live look there. Now we're also getting the very latest from areas including Seattle. Their National Weather Service putting out an alert on X as well. They say, quote, we continue to see tsunami waves arrive along the coast as well as Strait of Juan de Fuca. Reminder, do not attempt to go to the shore to observe the tsunami waves. Great advice there. As we know, onlookers like to get that close look, but it's not the safest. They go on to say, quote, keep away until local officials say it is safe to return. And speaking of Seattle, we do have a live look there now at 7:14 on the East Coast.
Again, nothing to see. It's at night. Nothing to see there because it's pitch black. But all right, so I guess that's enough of the footage and the articles, but I will read just a few here on X. So this comes from the White House. Due to a massive earthquake that occurred in the Pacific Ocean, a tsunami warning is in effect for those living in Hawaii. A tsunami watch is in effect for Alaska and the Pacific coast of the United States. And Japan is also in the way. Please visit tsunami.gov, which is unnecessary at this point because it's all over. Stay strong and stay safe from President Donald J. Trump, his Truth Social. And there you have it there. And actually, yeah, here, there's just a couple more. NWS Bay Area Tsunami Advisory. That's also speaking about the earthquake. And this one, I believe this was the first one that I came across late last night. And issuing a tsunami warning. At the time, they gave it an 8.7 magnitude earthquake. And obviously, they upgraded it to an 8.8 magnitude earthquake. So there you have it. That is all the tsunami, earthquake, volcano, all that crazy shit. Amazing that a freaking volcano erupted as a result of the earthquake. That's kind of mind blowing. I mean, it's not unheard of. It happens. I mean, it's all connected. It's all geology and tectonic movement and this, that, and the other. So I just thought that was kind of cool, though. That was cool that it triggered a friggin' volcanic eruption. So anyway, let's move on to other things that are happening in the swamp. So the Federal Reserve Chair Powell reads opening statement at the FOMC press conference on July 30th of 2025. This is over here on YouTube. So we'll play
in support
a clip
of
of
our
that.
goals, today the Federal Open Market Committee decided to leave our policy interest rate unchanged.
Unchanged.
We believe that the current stance of monetary policy leaves us well positioned to respond in a timely way to potential economic developments. In support of our goals, today the Federal Open Market...
All right, that was it. It's just a quick little clip. I mean, it's probably too late to consider raising interest rates to curb back on spending. I think the damage is already done as far as the personal finance is, as far as that goes. I mean, people with the amount of debt that they're in at this point, it's kind of shocking, and hopefully people will get that under control and at least quit digging yourselves into debt. Don't look for the nice, shiny new things that you find on Amazon. Just cut back on the spending, y'all. Oh, my God. Things are getting crazy. So anyway, from the White House, President Trump signed an executive order addressing threats by the government of Brazil and safeguarding U.S. interests, which imposes an additional 40% tariff on Brazilian imports and declares a national emergency to address Brazil's policies that violate human rights. Yeah, they went pretty hardcore to the left, didn't they, in recent years? I mean, they voted for what, essentially a socialist government. I remember back in my community college days, I had to do a political assignment, and we had to pick a country and discuss how the political system works in terms of voting and whatnot. And the very limited things that I took away from that was the fact that Brazil has over 20 different political parties. It's like 23, probably even more at this point. This was like back in like 2012 or so. And I just thought that was kind of mind-blowing. So the party that ends up winning the entire election, they'll get something like 12 or 13% of the overall vote, because it's just diluted across so many of these different political parties that a very low percentage turns out to be the party that just wins. So it doesn't sound like a system that I would want to have any part in, that's for sure. But yeah, so Trump signs an executive order addressing the threats to the U.S. by the government of Brazil. And Rapid Response 47, we are very busy in the White House. This is from Donald J. Trump's Truth Social. Very busy in the White House today, working on trade deals. I have spoken to the leaders of many countries, all of whom want to make the United States extremely happy. I will be meeting with the South Korean trade delegation this afternoon. South Korea is right now at a 25% tariff, but they have an offer to buy down those tariffs. I will be interested in hearing what the offer is. We have just concluded a deal with the country of Pakistan, whereby Pakistan and the United States will work together on developing their massive oil reserves. Awesome, man. Good news, drill baby drill. We are in the process of choosing the oil company that will lead this partnership. Really? Uh-oh. That's going to piss off a lot of activists and progressive and environmentalists in the whole nine yards. I don't know, man. Like, who's really... I don't know. I don't know who'd get picked for that. I'll have to look out for that. So anyway, who knows? Maybe they'll be selling oil to India someday. Who knows? I don't know. Whoever they pick, they're going to make a shitload of money. Likewise, other countries are making offers for a tariff reduction. All of this will help reduce our trade deficit in a very major way. A full report will be released at the appropriate time. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. Which, by the way, I did get a little bit of a late start today because I was working on a strip for the top of my screen. That's in my previous videos. I had my channel name across the top of the screen, and I changed it, but I think I might actually just leave it off. Here, let me pop it on here. So that's how it looks. That's the new one, the new and improved one. That's got the channel name, some red, white, and blue in the background of that. But I'm not so sure if I really need it. That was mostly for some videos that I did in the past before I started doing this new the show, if you will. I had the banner up there just to hide the tabs because I set up these some of the videos that I did in the past where I would go through a series of tabs, but I didn't want to show spoilers. But anyway, so I don't really think that I even need it, but I don't know. I'll just have to think on that. But for now, I think I'm just going to leave it off because, it's not really necessary, I don't think. But I don't know, maybe, whatever. All right, so from Department of Agriculture, searching for the next Capitol Christmas tree, like, ho, ho, ho. Even in the middle of summer, Santa's already on the lookout in Humboldt, Toyabe. I don't even know how to say that. Humboldt, Toyabe National Forest in Nevada. I'm not from Nevada. I'm in Florida. At the Forest Service, will soon choose the next U.S. Capitol Christmas tree to stand tall in Washington, D.C. Stay tuned. Christmas in July. I think they probably should have put this out on July 25th. Isn't that Christmas Day in July? Or is there no such thing? Is Christmas in July just any time in July? I don't know. I guess I'd have to go to my local car dealership and ask them. But this might just be just a GIF. Maybe. Hopefully I'm not going to get copyrighted for this. A little 10-second video. All right, there you have it. So, from the Department of Agriculture. So, yeah, they're looking for the next Christmas tree, which I didn't know it came from Nevada. Maybe it comes from a different state every year. I don't know. So, anyway, America is back from the GOP. Consumer spending is up. Personal savings are up. Domestic auto production is up, as I make this a little larger. Inflation is down, and the private sector is booming. Here's the president.
In the second quarter, we smashed all expectations. They thought it would be maybe a little bit less than 2, and it was 3, a little bit more than 3. Consumer spending is up. Business investment is way up. Domestic manufacturing is way up.
Nice.
Real disposable family income is up, and personal savings are up. Other than that, we're not.
I mean, disposable family income. I mean, forgive me for finding that a little hard to believe. Just the fact of inflation going up, everything, the cost of housing, the cost of rent, the utilities, everything. You could point to everything and conclude that it costs a significant amount of more money today than it did 5 years ago. So with all that being said, how is consumer spending up when wages have barely moved? I know they've moved a little, but they haven't moved with, let's say, the 30% increase in grocery prices over the last 5 years. I just don't understand that. Are people spending themselves into further and further debt? Because that's been the case the last few years. Consumer spending has been way up, especially since 2020, since the COVID thing happened. And a lot of the reason is just because people just keep getting into more debt. And it's absolutely crazy. The cost of new vehicles are over $50,000 now. I think it's like $51,000 for your average brand new vehicle today. It's absolutely fucking insane. But
doing
whatever.
So great.
I'm just pushing back on that point.
We have the hottest
that's all.
country, and I'll tell you, it's a great. We're having a lot of fun with it. At the same time, we dramatically slashed government spending for the second quarter in a row.
Good, keep going.
Down nearly 4%, which people were surprised at. We do a lot of cutting also.
Get it to
the private sector has boomed with nearly 600,000 jobs added, way above expectations.
That's pretty big.
Well,
That's
we
a lot
have
of jobs.
reduced the federal workforce by 70,000 jobs. So these are private jobs that are coming back to our country.
Well, and look, they opened up the Pell Grant for trade schools now. So if you want to get into the blue-collar workforce or get into a skill or a trade or a certificate or whatnot, you can now apply for the Pell Grant, which will apply to a trade school. So not to say that these federal employees should learn to code, but there's 600,000 jobs out there to be had. Now, I know you're probably going to have to relearn all over again, kind of basically start all over again, but at the end of the day, we've got to reduce the federal government. It's got to be drastically reduced. What did you say was 40,000? That's not even close to the number we should be looking at. We should be looking at hundreds and hundreds of, over 1 million, frankly, because right now we've got 5 million federal employees employed by the federal government. 5 million. That is absolutely crazy.
Federal jobs are being cut. Critics said that our tariffs would hurt the economy. But the data shows the
Democrats are saying that every day all over X.
And the exact opposite is
been seeing it
happening.
Every day.
The U.S. Treasury has taken in $150 billion from tariffs, and we'll be adding about $200 billion next month.
Okay, so my question, which I haven't found the answer for it just yet, and they might not even have a plan for it just yet. They might just be parking it into the Treasury. I want to know what they're doing with that money. And I know Elon Musk mentioned when he was running Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency, he proposed the idea of taking the money that was saved from the fraud, waste, and abuse, and rather than just throwing it into another budget, taking that surplus and cutting $5,000 checks to every tax-paying American. I am dead set against that because, I mean, we saw during COVID when everybody was getting their stimulus checks, well, like the top 10 companies got way, way richer. Tons of people just dumped everything into Amazon, Walmart, all the big box retailers and all that. But I think it would, if look, if they want to do something like that, if they want to give $5,000 to each American, it sounds wonderful at first, but that's a large reason why our inflation jacked up during the whole COVID season. I would say maybe issuing a treasury bond or some government bond or some like certificate of deposit or something like that. Issue that in the form of that $5,000, give it to every American, and make it so they can't, that it won't mature for like 10 or 20 years or something like that. Just let it accumulate over a period of time. That way, when it's at a point where people can cash it out, people are a little older, they're a little wiser, they're a little more financially literate, and they're not just gonna just take it and just super spend it on everything in one day. But that was just an idea that I had. But hopefully they'll take that surplus money and, well, first of all, reduce the budget. That's exactly what they definitely should be doing. But take that tariff money and put it toward the national deficit. I think they should put it directly to that, because every year we're paying interest on that deficit. We're so far right now with $37 trillion in debt, we're paying $960 billion in interest per year. And that is, oh man, what was the number again? It's like 15 or maybe 20% of all federal government spending today is just interest on the debt. It's just like if you had a $10,000 credit card and your interest is at 30% per year, you're essentially paying, $3,000 in interest per year. It's basically the same concept. They have to pay interest just like a credit card holder has to pay interest on their credit card. And if we're not paying down the national deficit, it's going to sit at $960 billion a year forever. But of course, the deficit's increasing. It's getting higher and higher. But anyway, not to dwell on that for too long. I'll just let this go.
Totals that nobody's ever seen before, frankly. And foreign imports were down 30% in the second quarter, while the domestic auto production surged by a stunning 36%. How about that number, Dr.
Well, they got to cut down auto numbers.
That's
too
good.
damn
We want to
expensive.
do that with your patients, too.
Nobody's buying cars right now, though.
We're going to have a very healthy
You can
country.
see for yourself, man. Nobody's buying
At the
cars
same
right
time,
now.
inflation continues to fall faster than expectations, and for the fifth consecutive month, core inflation was lower than predicted substantially. This is truly the dawn of the golden age of America. That's what we're in. We want to keep it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, obviously, with some of it. Most of it I agree with. Auto manufacturing probably is up. They're just having a hard time selling cars right now. This is one of the worst summers in car sales that we've seen in years and years. I think it's even worse than back in 2008 through 2010. Even buy her, pay her lots, the cars that sell for $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, they're not even selling cars right now. Just, I don't know if people are, everybody just bought a car recently and maybe just nobody's in the market for one right now. But I think it's just because overall they're just too expensive. And I think people are opting to hang on to the vehicle they have right now as long as humanly possible. I mean, right now, the average age of a vehicle on the road in America today is 12 years old, which is an all-time high record. Like, never in American history has the average age for a motor vehicle on the road 12 years old. And it's only going up. It's getting older because people are hanging on to their cars because they're too damn expensive. So overall, pretty good news. Inflation, hopefully it goes down. I know the inflation rate is going down. It'd be certainly nice if we saw it go into the negatives. That way we can start getting some real relief. And I don't know if that's going to happen. Probably not going to happen. I don't think it ever happens. I mean, maybe it's happened a couple times in the past. But the longer time goes on, the more reluctant companies will be to lower prices on their items, their goods, their services, because they'll just say, well, people are used to paying these prices now, so we'll just keep it the way it is. But I think one of the big elephants in the room financially is the housing market. I mean, like, millennials, especially Gen Z, most of them are just, with the housing prices today, they're never going to own a home. There's just no chance. I don't think. With the average house being $400,000, are you kidding? So I wish that Republicans would lean into that, because Democrats are talking about that, about how housing market is out of control. And Republicans, they are crickets about that. And that is a huge misstep, in my opinion. I really hope that they start addressing it and how they can possibly get the housing market back down, because it's choking a lot of Americans. The same with the rents. Cost of rent has gone up drastically. And anybody who rents, they're suffering right now. Even if you make $100,000 a year, it's still eating you up. So this comes from House Democrats. Republicans, one big ugly bill. See, they're sticking with the ugly bill this time. Takes health care away from more than 15 million Americans and makes health care more expensive, which is completely fake. It's all fake news. Republicans are forcing working people to choose between health care and other basic needs. This isn't just wrong, it's cruel. Democrats will always push back against cuts to health care. Now, if anybody's losing health care, it's illegal immigrants, illegal aliens. They're losing health care, as they should be. And they're also cutting a lot of policies from individuals who have more than one health insurance policy, especially if you have two different policies. I don't know if you can have Medicare and Medicaid. I don't know if that's a thing or not. I doubt it. I'm sure you're not supposed to. But apparently there's a lot of people who are double dipping when it comes to insurance policies, and they're getting rid of that. So that's obviously a good thing. But let's see what they're saying here in the comments. Let's see. Illegals are not Americans. Amen. That's what I said. It takes away from the able-bodied people who need to work, and illegals. Stop the gaslighting. This is why your approval is at 13%. I think, to be fair, I think the approval among Democrats, at least from the poll that I read either 2 or 3 days ago, it was at 19%. Not 13, 19. But maybe she read that somewhere else that it is 13, and I don't know, for all I know, maybe what I read was wrong, but I believe it was 19. But anyway, so Democrats will bankrupt the working Americans and give to illegals and Americans who are too lazy to work. More Democrat gaslighting for illegals. You really need to fire whoever's giving you all these talking points. America is awake now. We know the truth. And so on and so forth. They're just getting bodied in the comments. As they should be, because it's fake news. It's not true at all. Nobody's losing their health insurance, not outright. So, which is kind of funny because like they're well, not this one specifically. I don't know if I actually saved it in these bookmarks, but I did read a post earlier from a Democrat saying that the healthcare system's broken. I'm introducing a bill to try to make insurance more affordable. And I was like, what the fuck happened with the Obamacare thing, the Affordable Care Act? Y'all passed that. I mean, what the hell's going on with that? Well, it's because it was a catastrophe. And that is the direct reason why our health insurance skyrocketed. Because once upon a time, our health insurance not only was a lot more affordable, they didn't take out deductions and copay. Well, they had copays, but I mean, now you have to pay like 40% of your surgical procedure. I think they call them deductibles. Is that what they call them? I mean, that wasn't even really a thing before Obamacare happened. I mean, if you went to the hospital, you gave them $250 for your inpatient visit, and that was that. But that ain't the case anymore. Not unless you want to pay like $1,500 a month for a health insurance policy. Maybe you can get that. So anyway, this is from Chuck Schumer. Donald Trump broke his promise on the Epstein files. This dude is going on and on about the Epstein files. He just won't fucking let it go. I mean, not that we should let it go. I think we should still get to the bottom of it. I'm just saying this, I think, is a tactic that Democrats are employing because he's not the only one talking about the Epstein files day in and day out ever since the announcement that we're not going to release files. But the whole Russiagate scandal, I think that's why Democrats keep pushing the whole Epstein files, because they just want you to look over here and not over there. But anyway, he's hiding them, Donald Trump, and his evasions are getting desperate. Today, we are taking action. We're using a legal tool to force Trump to release the Epstein files to us. Honestly, I think if they did truly release the Epstein files, it'd be a lot worse on Democrats than it would be on Republicans. If they had any dirt on Trump in these Epstein files, the Biden administration was in charge for 4 years. They would have released it a long time ago. Frankly, I think if there's dirt on Trump in the Epstein files, they probably would have dumped all that way back in like 2015 or 16. If not Kamala Harris when she was running. They would have used that as ammunition, because why wouldn't they? So, whatever, just more posturing and whatnot. Here, I'll even show you. Let me see. Because I'm pretty sure he's going on and on about the Epstein files. So that's about tariffs. That's the one that I just read. Same with that one. Let's see. Release the files. That's another one. Let's see. Quiet Park Out Loud. Social Security. Let's move down a little more. So what is that? 3 so far? Reverse healthcare cuts. See, there was a point where he dropped like 5 or 6 in a row. Let's see. Legislation. The healthcare cuts. Trump's tariffs. Chuck Schumer is on playing. New tool. There's the Epstein files again. Epstein files again. He reposted Senate Democrats and released the files again. That was 10 hours ago. So what is that? 6 or 7 times in the last 10 hours he's mentioned the Epstein files. There's another one that's, well, like number 7 probably. And so on and so forth. So he's been very loud about the whole Epstein files thing. And I mean, I'm not saying I don't agree with him. I actually do agree with him on that. I think they should release everything they have. The only problem that I believe that Republicans have is that the Epstein files probably don't exist because the Biden administration destroyed them. Even though I don't know why AG Pam Bondi wouldn't have just come out and say that, well, we went to go get the Epstein files and they're not there. So Democrats must have destroyed them. Of course, if they were to come out and say that, Democrats say, no, they were there when y'all took over. It's y'all who destroyed them because Trump was in it. So whatever. So this is from Caroline Leavitt. The Trump administration is making America the crypto capital of the world. And even though, let me see if I can bring that up. I mean, crypto's not really moving that much. I mean, you think it'd be moving a lot more after they've made all of these legislative, or the progress they've made legislatively. I don't know if that's a word or not. But it's not, I mean, Bitcoin's at 117,000, which is absolutely insane. But it's not really moving a whole lot as far as, like, this is over the last 7 days. I mean, it's down over the last 7 days, if anything. Ethereum, I mean, it's gone up a little bit. But there's nothing that's, like, really skyrocketing exactly. I mean, USDC, it's about the same. I mean, that's one of the ones that I would be looking at because they signed legislation with regard to stablecoin, and USDC is a stablecoin. Let's see. The market cap. Wait a minute. Market cap volume over 24. Really? It's gone up 22%? Is that really true? So volume 24 hours, it's up. No, I don't think so. It says it was up. Where did it go? So 14.46 billion over the last 24 hours. So it's up 2.7. I don't think that's true. Isn't that the entire amount? Isn't 14 billion in total what it has? And it's gone up 2%. I think. I don't know. Can you tell I'm not a crypto guru? But I believe that's the case, if I'm not mistaken. Now, see, like, this is the value of it. I mean, stablecoin's always going to be at $1. It's always going to be at $1, more or less. I mean, like, it'll either be that 0.9999 or it'll be 1.0000, basically. But yeah, I'm just going to go off on a limb and say that the 15 billion, that's what it's got. All right, hold on. Here it is. Here it is. Volume. So Tether's got 118. Is that million or billion? That's billion, isn't it? Yeah, billion. Holy shit. So yeah, Tether's sitting at 118 billion. Yeah, USDC does. It is. It's 14.5 billion. But I don't know. Like, you would think that the United States signing all of this cryptocurrency legislation into law, like, you'd think that the crypto market would be exploding right now, but I don't think it really is. I mean, I've got a little bit in crypto, so I do pay attention to it. I'm not hyper focused on it. But who knows? Maybe there's something coming down the line that might cause the crypto market to really start booming. The only thing that I think that's kind of ominous about this is this the federal government's attempt to try to push USD more into digital assets? Is this part of the whole Great Reset agenda? Because we're not at 2030 yet. I mean, I believe that was part of the whole Great Reset agenda, was to reset the economy and try to move in some, like, global currency. So, I don't know, conspiracy theorists out there listening, what do you think? Leave a comment. Let me know, because I read all the comments that I get, the very few that I do get. I will read them, at least for a couple of weeks. I mean, if some of my videos start taking off, and if I start getting dozens or hundreds of comments, I'll do the best I can. But yeah, if you have any insight into that, definitely let me know. That'd be awesome. So let's move on. So this comes from the White House. God bless our veterans. POTUS, President of the United States, has signed the VA Home Loan Program Reform Act into law. Signing it right now. Right now? Right now. epic win for our veterans.
Okay.
Let's go.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. No auto pen. Hell yeah. Love it.
It's a very important bill, and we want to thank everybody for the great help, but in particular, you two guys have done a fantastic job. Thank you very much.
All right. So what is the VA Home Loan Program Reform Act? Let's take a look and see what it is. Matter of fact, let me grab... Grabbing a new window here. Put this up. I am not very well prepared. So let's see what this is. I mean, I guess I could take the Google AI answer. The VA Home Loan Program Reform Act, H.R. 1815, was signed into law on July 30th by President Donald Trump. This legislation introduces significant changes to the VA Home Loan Program, primarily aimed at assisting veterans who have fallen behind on their mortgage payments and preventing foreclosures. That sounds a little ominous. That kind of puts out vibes that maybe the housing market's about to take a turn, as in my opinion it should, but whatever. That's not for this discussion. So the key provisions: permanent partial claims program. The Act establishes a permanent partial claims program within the VA Home Loan Program, allowing the VA to advance funds to cover missed payments for borrowers facing serious delinquency. These advances are subordinate liens, helping borrowers become current without refinancing or altering their original loan terms. I mean, that's good. Anything that helps veterans is a good thing. Replaces VASP. This program replaces the VA Servicing Purchase Program, which was created in 2024 but ended on May 1st of 25 after providing loss mitigation relief to approximately 35,000 delinquent borrowers. Parity with other federal programs, the Act aims to align VA home loans with those from the Department of Agriculture and Federal Housing Administration, which already utilize partial claims as a home retention tool, and it addresses foreclosure risk. The reform was needed due to the VASP shutdown, leaving over 43,000 VA loans seriously delinquent as of June, with no comparable program to prevent foreclosure. So in essence, the VA Home Loan Program Reform Act introduces a new way to help veterans with mortgage difficulties through a partial claim option, aiming to prevent foreclosures and ensure access to similar protections as homeowners with other federally backed mortgages. So that is a good thing. It's good that he signed that into law, for sure. So that happened today. All right, so let's move on to Rapid Response 47. Secretary Burgum, quote, when the Biden administration was permitting these offshore projects, they weren't taking into consideration coastal communities' inputs. We've got issues with the whales. There isn't any source of energy that's killed more birds than these wind towers. And let's give this a listen.
You're right
there,
Martha, because again,
when
the Biden administration was permitting these offshore projects, they weren't taking in
Hold on. Why the hell is that thing popping up?
consideration
That's my
coastal
highlighting
communities'
tool.
inputs, the marine fisheries. We know there's been damage to that. And of course, we've got the issues with the whales. And if you take this
ongoing
1,500 projects, there's
Big
76,000 wind towers in America. I think one can be certain that there isn't any source of energy that's killed more birds than those wind towers. And the only group I know that's happy about that is the coyotes that live below those wind towers, because they're getting taxpayer subsidy protein dropping out of the sky because of all the migratory birds, bald eagles. These wind farms would get they'd get a permit for takes for bald and golden eagles.
Well,
yeah, it's wild. It's crazy. And who's really benefiting from all these wind turbines? Is it a city? Are they factories? I don't really know, to be honest. I know one thing's for sure. Nobody's seeing any reduction on their power bill. I believe that's what Democrats were trying to gaslight us into believing, that if we put out all this renewable energy that the taxpayers are going to pay for, our electric bills are going to go down, which obviously they're not going to. So, all right, let's move on. Secretary Sean Duffy, since I took action to enforce language proficiency requirements for truckers, our state partners have put roughly 1,500 unqualified drivers out of service. That's what I call results. If you can't read or speak our national language, English, we won't let your truck endanger the driving public. America first equals safety first. Yeah, this is absolute common sense because all of our road signs are in English. So you got to kind of know English in order to get around our public roadways safely. And he is responding to Dana Almeida. So 1,500 truck drivers taken out of service for poor English following Transportation Department directive. This is the results-driven administration. So there you go. So this is from Kelly Loeffler. Last month, DOJ uncovered a $550 million fraud and bribery scandal within USAID's 8A contracting program. Today, I am announcing that SBA is rescinding USAID's independent 8A contracting authority, a $3.6 billion program in fiscal year of 24 alone. Our message is clear. There will be severe consequences for those who allow outright corruption and fraud at taxpayer expense.
What action is the SBA
That
going
is
to
very
take
quiet.
in response to this investigation? And
I got
also,
it
what
maxed.
happens to these contracts?
Well, good morning, Cheryl. Great to be with you. Look, the President Trump administration has a zero tolerance policy on fraud and corruption in federal government. So we're going after them. When we saw the DOJ prosecute $550 million in a fraudulent bribery scheme, we said we need a 15-year look-back audit on everything in federal contracting for small businesses. That's what we're doing right now. We have a 15-year.
Ain't that some shit? Look at that. The former federal contractor working with USAID pleads guilty in a $550 million bribery scheme. She's absolutely right. 15 years, hell. We should go back 20, 25 years, or however long USAID's been a thing. We should audit the entire fucking thing, going all the way back to the beginning, because I guarantee you that there's got to be so many people that became millionaires as a result of this giant fraud that the taxpayers have been paying for. I just read something the other day. It's like what, like 1 in 5. I think it's 1 in 5 or maybe 1 in 6 Americans are millionaires. Is that really true? Hold on. Before I hold on. I know I'm getting off topic, but I don't want to say that without backing it up. Wait, hold on. Look at this shit. 18%. I was right. Of U.S. households are considered millionaires, meaning they have a net worth of $1 million or more. This translates to roughly 23.7. Here, let me make this bigger so you can actually see it for yourself. For those who have smartphones. Roughly 23.7 million millionaire households across the country. According to a finance website, a recent increase in the stock market and real estate values have likely increased the number of millionaires since this data was collected. Yeah, I get it. Houses have essentially doubled in value, which I'm sure probably jumped the amount of people. But 23 million millionaires? Back when I was a kid, late 90s, early 2000s, I thought, or I believe that I remembered that there was only 1 million millionaires. 1 million millionaires. But now it's 23.7 million millionaires, almost 20%. I find it hard to believe, but it's probably through entities like USAID and government contracts and startups and these government grants and all this shit that's made tons of people millionaires. And I'm sure, I'm not saying a large percentage of this number got their money from fraudulent origins, but I bet a lot of people did, though. But yeah, to be fair, a lot of them probably became technically millionaires because their house or their property that their house might be sitting on may have gone up substantially. So I guess there's that.
Retroactive audit ongoing right now. But what I'm announcing today on your show, Cheryl, is the fact that we have now rescinded the independent contracting authority of USAID because they operate a massive federal government contracting program. And so they can no longer oversee their government contracting for small businesses. We're standing up to corruption in the Trump administration that was allowed to proliferate under the Biden administration.
For some oversight.
So we're taking back that authority at the SBA, and we're looking across all federal agencies to restore confidence in this program.
Well, this, of course, amid the complete dismantling of the USAID program.
Yeah,
I mean, that was one of the very first targets of DOJ. So thank you for letting us know and breaking that news here on our show. We certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, you remember that when they first went in there? Remember how desperately the Democrats are trying to keep DOJ out of the building? They were just, they were putting their bodies in between, like in front of the front doors, trying to keep DOJ from going in there. It just makes you wonder, why? Why are you trying to insist that they're not allowed to go in there and audit your activities? It's almost as if you're breaking shitloads of laws.
That 15 years going
dollars,
back.
probably
That's
$1 trillion
quite an
in
audit.
fraud.
If you're an accountant, Kelly, how long do you think that's going to take?
A while.
Well, Cheryl, the important thing to know about this program is we're going agency by agency, but we're moving quickly. We have to hold people accountable who are bad actors, who are taking opportunities from small businesses and taking taxpayer dollars for criminally corrupt activities that the American people suspect are out there, but no one has ever held them accountable. If you look at USAID alone, $3.8 billion in small business contracting, that's just one agency. So we are going to root this out. We have put all federal contracting officers on notice in a letter that we sent yesterday that they are legally responsible to report fraud and corruption. And we're going to continue to remind them of that, of their duty to taxpayers. So we'll continue to report results back from that, Cheryl.
That's remarkable.
Oh, man. Good. I'm glad they're doing that. I'm glad they're keeping up the fight. Try to get rid of all this fraud, waste, and abuse. It is just absolutely appalling. All right, so let's go to Secretary Sean Duffy. If you're receiving taxpayer dollars, you should expect to be held accountable by the American people. No more boondoggles. Thank you, Senator Joni Ernst, for your leadership in Congress to ensure federal dollars are being used effectively and efficiently. And this is in regards to her earlier post. The wait is over. Today, I am releasing my report exposing more billion-dollar boondoggles like the California Crazy Train. Check this
Today, I will be releasing my report, and we are identifying a number of those billion-dollar boondoggles. And as you pointed out, that California Crazy Gravy Train, it is totally off the rails. And the sad thing about that, as you outlined, the overspending, it is way, way past the time of completion. And with that $100 billion that they are over budget, not even a single rail has been laid on that
That's what
project.
I thought I read too.
So what the president has done, he has canceled that project. What we need to do as Congress is include that in the next rescissions package so that we're actually clawing it back and taxpayers will not have to suffer any longer. But in this report that I am releasing today, what you will find are additional boondoggles. So this is the next tranche that I am releasing that we will be encouraging the administration to claw back, save our taxpayers money.
Hell yeah.
We're also attempting to pass a law that through all agencies, if you are more than $1 billion over budget or 5 years behind on your project, it gets scrutinized and reviewed, and we'll have full transparency for the American taxpayer.
$1 billion. Hell, it should be like 10 million. It should be a lot less than that. That should be subjected to review and auditing and the whole 9 yards, man. Put them through the ringer. This is our tax dollars, man. This is our grandchildren's money that they're taking. So this is from Lee Zeldin from the EPA. The Trump EPA is proposing the largest deregulatory action in the history of the United States by repealing the 2009 Obama EPA endangerment finding. Please make this happen. All of the GHG regulations on vehicles that followed and the much despised start-stop feature. I mentioned this yesterday in my video. In doing so, we will follow Supreme Court precedent set in cases like Loper Bright, West Virginia, and Michigan. We will claim no statutory authority beyond the plain language of the law, and we will heed the calls of Americans demanding relief from extreme economic pain. 100%. The vehicles today, they're built like shit. They're not designed to last 400,000 miles. Well, I mean, I don't know if I'd go as far as to say cars back in the 1990s were designed to last 400,000 miles, but they did, and they still do. I mean, mine's a 99. It was built in 98, but it's technically a 99, I guess. It's almost at 250,000 miles, and it's running beautifully, knock on wood. But, yeah, we got to get back to building vehicles that were over-engineered more, or, for lack of a better term, like the cars back in the 1990s. And with all this EPA shit and all these regulations and emissions and all this crap that they're forcing automakers to add to cars these days, they're not nearly as reliable as they once were. I mean, a lot of these engines today, they build up with tons of carbon and shortens the life drastically with all this EGR valve bullshit that they've got plastered all over the engines today. So this is definitely going to be awesome if they can put this through or just cancel all this nonsense that they've put into effect over the years. But Let's check this out.
There's going to be a lot of hyperbole, scare tactics, extreme
big
rhetoric
time. Absolutely,
that will come from
there will be.
climate zealots. Here's the thing.
Yes, there will be.
The Supreme Court ruled in Loper Bright and overturned the Chevron doctrine in West
Loper.
Virginia versus EPA, Michigan versus EPA, and other cases that an agency like EPA can't just decide on our own.
Good.
That we are going to get creative with law, and where there's a vacuum and missing language, we're just going to make it up ourselves. We're not going to ignore the major policy doctrine. We're not going to go along with applying extreme economic pain on Americans who can least afford it. President Trump, when he first called me asking me to be the EPA administrator, to his last phone call to me when we last spoke, has been focused on bringing back and protecting American auto jobs. We want the American auto industry to thrive.
Also make cars reliable
we want to
again.
apply common sense. The American public demanded it. We want to make sure that cars are affordable again. And after the endangerment finding came out, not only were there all sorts of mobile source emission standards, but they also came out with trying to regulate out of existence all sorts of stationary sources. They started applying it to airplanes and more. We're talking about many trillions of dollars. Where does the authority come from? It came from the Obama EPA deciding very creatively with a whole bunch of mental leaps that they were going to just claim an authority that we believe, after a very plain reading of these Supreme Court cases, we don't have.
Yep. And matter of fact, I'll look this up right now. The required mile per gallon on light pickup trucks, because I assume pickup trucks to be more of the gas guzzlers of all the different types of vehicles that one can buy. So let's see. Let's try 2026. Oh man, this is large. All right, here we go. Look at this. In 2026, new vehicles, including pickup trucks, are required to average 40 miles per gallon under federal fuel economy standards, according to multiple news outlets. This is a significant increase from the previous standards, which required an average of 28 miles per gallon. This is why your V8 engines are disappearing. This is why they're putting all this twin-turbo bullshit in 4-cylinder and 6-cylinder engines. And this is why vehicles are not lasting nearly as long as they once did, because they're putting these insane mile per gallon standards in all of our vehicles. So I guess just take that info, stick that in your pipe and smoke it. So hopefully he's going to roll back that, to say the least, because it's ridiculous. It's absolutely crazy. They're forcing the auto industry to develop technology that they really don't have. Now, yeah, they can get vehicles to get to 40 miles a gallon, but it's going to come at a cost. There's going to be a lot of collateral damage associated with that, and we're getting vehicles that are way too expensive because they're putting way too much technological crap in it, and we're not getting longevity on the other end. Not at all. I would be really surprised if a 2026 pickup truck is going to hit 300,000 miles. I'd be pretty surprised. I don't know. I've been wrong before. What do I know? So this is from Dan Bongino, the FBI Deputy Director. Can't thank our local and state law enforcement partners enough for allowing us to partner with them on our nationwide initiative to crush violent crime in America. Operation Summer Heat is in full swing as we clean up our streets of violent predators. We have been updating you for the past few weeks with specific arrest and seizure tallies, and we will continue to do so throughout the summer. But this post is strictly to express our gratitude for the incredible work being done by our local and state partners. In a summer full of superhero movies, they are the real heroes. Amen. That's good, man. Keeping up the good work. Get all of them off our streets. And this is from Rapid Response 47 from Donald J. Trump's Truth Social. August 1st, a great day for America. And that is in response to this. The August 1st deadline is the August 1st deadline. It stands strong and it will not be extended. A big day for America. And I believe that is in reference to the tariffs. I believe the tariffs are kicking in on August 1st. The deadline ends on August the 1st. So another one from Dan Bongino. More updates for you on our efforts to defend the homeland and protect the American people from our foreign adversaries. Now, let me just leave it at that size. This week, Cadence Design Systems Incorporated, a multinational electronic design automation software and hardware company, pleaded guilty to committing criminal export violations and will pay more than $140 million in criminal and civil penalties. Cadence sold sensitive semiconductor design tools and technology to a restricted Chinese military university involved in the development of supercomputers, which are believed to support military and nuclear explosion simulations in China. Holy shit, man. Our country's talented technology innovators, particularly with Silicon Valley's semiconductor industry, stand amongst the best in the world. Your FBI, along with our partners, will continue to protect our most sensitive industries and innovators from reaching the hands of our enemies. This plea deal is a wake-up call for the semiconductor industry to take our export control laws seriously and to better monitor where our leading-edge technology is going. The FBI will never stop working to identify and stop these illegal actions. I'd like to highlight the great work of FBI San Francisco, the FBI Counterintelligence Division, and the Commerce Gov. Let me just double-check on this one. So Commerce Gov, let's see, the U.S. Commerce Department, okay. U.S. Commerce Department, for their continued efforts to safeguard this technology. This work is critical to defending the homeland and protecting you, the American people. God bless America and all those who defend her. Great work. Absolutely crazy. That absolutely sucks, man. I mean, all in the name of fucking money. They just want to make money, so they're going to hand over precious technology to our adversary just because they want to make a few extra bucks. So from Lee Zeldin, once again, I got another one from Lee Zeldin. From fixing gas can flows to ending the hated start-stop feature in cars, and from deregulating trillions of dollars of rules to solving decades-old cross-border raw sewage flows from Tijuana, the Trump EPA spends all day, every day, delivering on the Trump mandate the American public voted for last November.
Yeah, and your point, which is it's so key, the consumer choice dynamic. You know, we often get asked when we're critical of the electric vehicle mandate, as if we want to say that you're not allowed to have electric vehicles.
I mean, like, can you even name who the leader, director, secretary, whatever they call him, of the EPA under Biden? Who was he under Biden? I honestly don't know. Or under Obama or whatnot. Like these people, they're never on the news. They're never talking to anybody. They're just always just hidden somewhere in the bureaucracy of DC. It's just, it's good to see him actually getting shit done and getting in front of the camera and explaining to us what the hell they're doing in the EPA, because, yeah, the EPA has been absolutely destructive in just about every conceivable way over the last probably at least 10, 20 years.
That's not at all what any of us are saying.
Especially economically.
You should be able to get whatever type of car you want, whatever type of lawnmower you want, and to the example that you just pointed out. Part of this proposed rule, beyond just rescinding the endangerment finding, it's also a proposal to eliminate a lot of greenhouse gas emission rules that followed as it relates to mobile sources or vehicles, and then also to get rid of the off-cycle credit, the incentive that led to car manufacturers putting that much-hated start-stop feature. And I have found that when I have leaned into certain issues that might seem too small to even mention, like getting gas cans to pour faster, when President Trump is talking about showerhead valves, water flows, when you talk about these quality of life issues, refrigerants, and so much more, it is important for us to not just be tackling the big things, but also to be tackling the small things. And to your question, Cheryl, your point, to be fighting for protecting consumer choice.
Yeah, those freaking gas cans, jerry cans, whatever the hell you want to call them, they're fucking frustrating. I've got 3 5-gallon ones because I live in a hurricane-prone area. I live in St. Pete, so I got to have a few gas cans, not for the generator, but God forbid that we have to evacuate, because I live really close to the beach over Indian Shores, Reddington, Madeira Beach, Indian Rocks Beach. Like, I'm over in that area, and we've got 1 million people that live in Pinellas County, this little peninsula, the most densely populated county in the state, almost double above number 2 most populated. And if we evacuate, we have to evacuate into Tampa, which also has a 1 million plus people there. So needless to say, it's going to take quite a bit of gas to get out of here if we had to evacuate, which God forbid that'll ever have to happen. But I like to be prepared, if not over prepared. So I've got 3 of those exact gas cans that he's talking about, and they're annoying as hell to use, and they just trickle out, and it takes forever to get gas out of it. Honestly, and I've read this in comments, not in this video, but in another comment where he mentioned that, and someone said that they just take off the nozzle completely and they just pour directly from the can, which I do too. I've done that too. If you just get a big funnel, I mean, you might drip a few drops on the ground, but I mean, that's one way of getting it done. So yeah, so that'll be good. The start-stop feature, I know what he's talking about. I hear it in traffic all the time because I don't use the air conditioning in my car. I always keep my windows down, so I hear vehicles around me all the time. You can tell when they let their foot off the brake because their car starts when the light turns green. And I've heard that from people before, how frustrating it is and annoying. Not like maybe not as frustrating, but definitely annoying that your car just essentially dies every time you come to a stop. How ridiculous it is. So yeah, that'll be nice. See if they can get that out of the way. But we'll have to leave that in the hands of the automakers. Are they willing to stop adding that into the vehicles? Because if they get rid of that start-stop feature, that might alleviate $300, $500. I don't know how much it costs to add that technology into the vehicle, but if they're able to remove that or at least offer it as an option, you might be able to get a new car a little cheaper without it. So that'd be nice. Every little bit helps. So from the U.S. Department of Justice, this disgusting breach of civil rights against students will not stand. DOJ will force UCLA to pay a heavy price for putting Jewish Americans at risk and continue our ongoing efforts into other campuses in the UC system. And that's from AG Pam Bondi. And that's in reply to earlier, same day, Justice Department finds the University of California, Los Angeles in violation of federal civil rights law. Today, the U.S. Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division announced that the University of California, Los Angeles violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment and Title IX of the Title VI. Sorry, I'm not good with Roman numerals. Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 by acting with deliberate indifference and creating a hostile educational environment for Jewish and Israeli students. Good. That's very good. And they're not the only ones. So hopefully they're sweeping this across the entire university system all across America because, yeah, there's a whole bunch of them acting with all this bullshit, hating on Israelis and Jewish folks. It's not good, man. All right, so from Council of Economic Advisors, real GDP increased at a 3% annual rate in quarter two, beating expectations of 2.6%, which President Trump mentioned in the video we watched just a bit ago. The increase was driven by rising consumer spending and net exports. President Trump continues to right-size federal spending, which fell notably in 1H. So here's the chart, or the bar graph, and so the average from 2011 to 2019 is in gray, and the first is GDP, second column is consumption, then fixed investment, inventory investment, net exports, and government. And then they also show in light blue quarter one of 2025, and then dark blue is quarter two of 2025. So there's like some substantial movement for sure. Like GDP, for instance, quarter one of 2025, it was at negative, 0.5%, negative 0.5. And now it's all the way up to 3. So that's a pretty significant jump. And from net exports, it went from negative 4.5 all the way up to plus 5%. So big gains. Really good to see. Really awesome. All right, so next, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. As usual, there's more to the story than the media is telling you. And what is that they speak of? So from Homeland Security, these fake news SOB stories are getting old. Darwin Contreras Rodriguez is a criminal illegal alien from El Salvador with convictions including theft and possession of marijuana. He was arrested during a court hearing for driving under the influence. Under President Trump and Secretary Noem, if you break the law, you will face the consequences. And they're speaking about Newsweek, who said that ICE detains Obama Award winner living in the U.S. for 20 years. So yeah, they're getting fed up with the framing, the propaganda when it comes to enforcing our immigration system. 79% of Americans are in favor of mass deportations. The overwhelming majority. That's what we voted for when we elected Trump back in November of 2024. So let them keep doing what they're doing. Do what you do best. So from Mike Lee, Democrats have seen the polling. They know that the vast majority of Americans support proof of citizenship to vote. So they resort to disgusting lies to scare decent people off from common sense legislation like the SAVE Act. They're not going to win. That's in reference to Greg Price from Chuck Schumer. Quote, if you don't think Republicans want to revert back to Jim Crow, look what they did with the SAVE Act, which went back to Jim Crow for the whole nation by requiring an ID to vote. Now, who's responsible for Jim Crow, by the way? It's Democrats. Yeah, if you read your history, it's the Democrat South. The Democrats was Jim Crow. So this asshole is trying to make it sound like that Republicans, the evil big bad Republicans, that it's their fault that Jim Crow ever happened. It's their fault that the KKK ever happened, which we're not. That was started by the Democrats after they lost the Civil War because they wanted to keep slaves, while Republicans fought and lost tens of thousands of Union soldiers to try to free the slaves, which we successfully did. And it just goes to show, Democrats, they can't hide from their history. And in many ways, they haven't changed at all. But let's check this out.
Not going to let them revert to Jim Crow. And if you don't think they want to revert to Jim Crow, just look what they did.
Dude, your party is fucking Jim Crow, dude.
In the SAVE Act, which
went
back to Jim Crow for the whole nation. By so making it hard, they said you need ID, and they made it so hard to show ID that probably half the people in America couldn't vote.
Oh, so what's he trying to suggest? That African Americans and Latino Americans, that they don't know where to find the license branch? Is that what he's trying to suggest? Because I've heard a Democrat say that before. Several, in fact. Yeah, they said, well, we can't require ID to vote because some minorities may... Well, they didn't say minorities. They said African Americans or whatever. That not all of them know where the license branch is. It's like, dude, are you out of your fucking mind? Out of your damn mind. But whatever, fuck this asshole. All right, so let's go to Tammy Duckworth. What's there to celebrate? The cost of beef is up. The cost of utilities is up. The cost of electronics is up. The cost of RX drugs is up. Coffee, toys, and it's American consumers who are paying the price. Yeah, well, if you look back at the Biden administration, we did go through that. Joe Biden was president for 4 years. The Democrats were in charge for 4 years, with the exception of the Supreme Court. And I think, didn't Republicans take back the House during the second half of Biden's term in his administration? I think they did. Or no, yeah. But the Democrats, they still controlled the Senate, though, I think, for the entire time, didn't they? So, yeah, they were in control when all this bullshit was happening, and that's why all this shit costs so damn much. Trump's only been president for a little over 6 months, and he's getting things back down, hopefully closer to where they should be. So it's just typical accusing the other side of what you're already guilty of. That's what they unfortunately are good at doing. So from the White House, she's responding to this. Welcome to the golden age. Thanks to the leadership of POTUS, the U.S. has generated over $150 billion in tariff revenues within the past 6 months, and they're just ass hurt because it's Trump doing it, and it's not them. That's all it is. That's what it's all about. They want more government spending, and Trump is cutting it, and it's pissing them off because a lot of their friends that they rub shoulders with, their jobs are being threatened. I mean, the D.C. bureaucracy. What was it? 40,000 federal employees were laid off. And of all the people who work in D.C. for the federal government, of those who vote, 90% of them vote for Democrat in the D.C. bureaucracy. So anyway, this is from Senator Ted Cruz. Democrats want to take police officers away from you because they don't think your children deserve to be protected. In fact, they'll fight harder for the criminals than for our kids. Well, I think what also Republicans should be encouraging is that all law-abiding Americans, which is the overwhelming majority of Americans, we all obey the law, like 99% of us, we should carry armed, because a well-armed society is a polite society, and it tends to be a safe society too. Because Joe Schmo isn't going to walk into a bank and rob it if he knows that all 10 customers waiting in line have guns. You know what I'm saying? All right, so let's just play this from Ted Cruz.
And the hypocrisy of Democrats. I enjoyed watching you debate de Blasio. Of course, he's surrounded by armed guards. Reminds me of Rosie O'Donnell, who used to have armed security, but would say she wants to strip away the Second Amendment rights of the little people. And they view all of us as the little people. There's a level of contempt and hypocrisy. And, Sean, if a Republican politician stood up and said, I don't like poor neighborhoods, so I'm going to take all of the police out of the poor neighborhoods and let the criminals just prey on the people there. That would rightly be denounced as a hate crime. That would be a terrible policy. That is the policy of today's Democrats. If you are low income, if you're African...
Just to interrupt briefly, I live in St. Pete. I think I just mentioned that. And the St. Petersburg Police Department, they adopted a policy probably about 10 years ago. And St. Pete it's largely Democrat for the most part. The mayor, I think, has been Democrat for years, for a long time. But unfortunately, Anna Paulina Luna, she represents St. Pete, and she's a Republican, a very popular one. But anyway, the St. Pete Police Department, they started a policy in some of the low-income neighborhoods. I'll just keep it politically correct. They had a policy where the police officers that were stationed in those districts where that's
American, if you're Hispanic, guess what?
Oh my God. All right. Anyway, the districts for where they're stationed for their shifts, for one day a month, they were not allowed to use their police cruisers for the day. They had to quote unquote walk the beat. Like the cops in New York do. They walk the beat. So what they did was they took their whole shift, like 8 hours, 10 hours, however long their shift is, and they would walk through the neighborhood, and they were supposed to meet and greet, say hi, and ask people like, how's the, how are things doing around here? Do you have any complaints? Is your day going good? Just making small talk or asking them if they have any concerns or anything like that. And as far as I know, they're still doing that to this day. And that was required for all police officers for St. Pete Police, whichever district that their shift was at located. They had to walk around the neighborhood and be friendly and try to get more in touch with the citizens that they're serving and protecting. And I think that's a great thing. So I don't know if that's common for police departments. I assume it's not, but I think that's a good thing. So actually, let me go back a little bit. I accidentally smacked my mouse. All right, there we go.
If you are low income, if you're African American, if you're Hispanic, guess what? The Democrats want to take police officers away from you because your children don't deserve to be protected. And in fact, they will fight harder for the criminals than they will for your kids. And there's a reason why Democrats today have the lowest poll numbers. The Wall Street Journal just came out with a poll. The lowest poll numbers since they've been polling in 3 decades.
As far as I know, it was 19%. Kind of low, man. That's kind of low. But for some reason, they keep voting for them. Now, why is that? I don't really understand that. All right, so from Senator Cortez Maestro, good news, Nevada. My bills to build more homes and lower housing costs in our state are moving forward. My Home and Price Acts are now part of a bipartisan package of bills approved this morning in the Senate Banking Committee. This is a key first step to make homes more affordable, and I'll keep working across the aisle to get them passed. Let's see what she has to say about this. What's she doing about this? Will she tell us specifically what's happening, or is she just going to say, we need this and we need that, we need cheaper homes?
So Nevada, I have some good news to share. Today, 2 of my bills to help Nevadans afford their homes were included in a bipartisan housing package. But what does that really mean? Well, my bills, the Price Act and the Home Act, would help build more affordable homes for middle-class families.
Do you see how fucking vague they are? They're like so generic and vague. Well, what my bill extremely specifically does is it builds more homes for everyday working-class Americans. Now, how do you like them apples?
It would upgrade outdated manufactured homes, and it would improve housing infrastructure across our state. Now, they're part of
she does the political fist up and down.
And Republicans to help build more homes and lower housing costs across the country. That means these bipartisan bills can move forward together to become law and make a real difference for our families.
She's not going to tell us.
I hear it all the time when I'm in Nevada, and I know you feel it. The cost of housing is just too high. And that's why these bills are so important. I'll tell you what, I'll keep working across the aisle to pass them into law. They just passed out of committee. We'll get them out of the Senate and over to the House.
Can you tell us what the fuck they are, though? They're going to lower costs. Yeah, I know. Like, we could tell by how you freaking named them. We know what you're planning on doing with it, but how are you doing it? Are you going to force lumber companies are you going to price fix lumber and aluminum, or like, what the hell are you trying to do with it? I mean, I already know what she's going to do with it, or what's really going to happen with it. They're just going to take more tax money from people and dump it into the laps of people who didn't work for that money. They just want a house, and we're just going to give you money from the government so you can just go off and buy a house that you probably can't afford. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous. But that's ultimately just going to drive up housing prices, because if everybody's getting, I don't know, $15,000 toward their down payment on a house, I mean, why wouldn't existing homeowners just increase the cost of their houses by $15,000? I mean, why wouldn't they? But yeah, whatever. And matter of fact, let's see what they say in the comments. I don't know if I commented on it. Oh yeah, build more houses, not government housing. Get the price gouged cost of building materials down, and deport all illegal immigrants in the area. Common sense. And that was my comment, but yeah. So congratulations on the confirmation of Emil Bove. I can't remember how to pronounce his name, but Democrats are really pissed off that he was confirmed. Apparently he somehow was tied in with January 6th. I don't know if he was there and he was arrested or what, but I don't know. He's connected with that somehow. But anyway, really outstanding bit of discernment to reject a highly qualified Muslim last year at Gaza, right? Maybe want to spend more serious time with the rosary beads for, I don't know, the next decade. It's all just like a mutant extension of the Disney Corporation and the East India Company, yeah? You gave us Emil Bove personally. Burn in hell, you witch. What a fucking clown show. Senator Booker's right. Democratic approval is in the toilet because you don't fight. This is not hard. Why don't you understand this? Kudos for standing up to the American people. Kowtowing to the maniacal Cory Booker has no policy other than Trump bad. We're tired of this rhetoric. Responsible for this. Democrats can't forget this Islamophobe. All right. You're a grifter, and everything you do makes things worse. All you'll do is exasperate sprawl in a ghettoize nice communities. More Section 8 housing, more crime coming to your neighborhood. I mean, I don't know if that's exactly what's going to happen with that, but I mean, really, it's basically just going to end up just costing taxpayers more. That's what they're doing. That is the only thing that the Democrats always just go with. They're like, we're going to help you by taking your money away from you in the form of taxes, and we'll give it to you. Let's take your money away from you and then give it back to you, but not as much as you gave us. We're only going to give you just a few little crumbs. But chances are you're not going to be qualified for it. We're just going to give it to other people who most likely don't pay a fucking dime in taxes and probably never have. All right, whatever. I'll get off my freaking soapbox. So this is from Donald J. Trump. Okay, I was just making sure if I read this or not. I think I might have, though. Due to a massive earthquake occurring in the Pacific Ocean, a tsunami warning is in effect for those living in Hawaii. So, yeah, we covered that already. Almost 500,000 likes, 54 million views. Damn. Mike Lee, with the EU now claiming that it doesn't have the power to comply with Trump's trade agreement, maybe we should consider suggesting that we don't have the power to carry an outsized share of Europe's security umbrella through NATO. Haha. Yeah. So that's in response to Politico Europe. The EU has admitted it doesn't have the power to deliver on a promise to invest $600 billion into the United States economy only hours after making the pledge at landmark trade deals in Scotland. I absolutely agree. Let's just cut off NATO. I've been vocal about that in previous episodes of this show, and I don't think that we should be funding NATO really at all anymore. In fact, I think NATO... we should have given it serious consideration of just dismantling NATO after the Soviet Union fell, because wasn't that the whole reason NATO was there in the first place? Was just to keep the Soviet Union in check and keep them from, expanding, or if they were to get crazy and start firing nukes, that we would at least have an infrastructure in place to hit back, arguably harder than they would have hit others. But I don't know. I mean, United States, we've got two oceans separating us from the rest of the world. Europe, if they need NATO so badly, let them pay for it. I don't think we should really have anything to do with it at this point, especially if we build Trump's Golden Dome. If he builds the Golden Dome, kind of like how Israel has the Iron Dome, if we do that as a ICBM deterrence or an infrastructure that would help prevent ICBMs or supersonic missiles, hypersonic missiles, nuclear warheads from hitting the United States, if we set up a system like that, the Golden Dome, then as far as the United States is concerned, we don't need NATO at all. We don't. They would. So let them cover the whole thing. I mean, how much does NATO cost anyway? Like, I know the United States is paying the lion's share of it, but how much is the U.S. paying in NATO? Let's just see annually and see what that is. I bet it's an absolute retarded number. Let's see here. The U.S. was projected to cover roughly 16% of NATO's total common funded budget, which was around $3.6 billion in 2023. Honestly, that's not as high as I thought it was, but it's still an absurd amount of money. Because the other countries, like Germany, they have to pay, I want to say it's, 5%? I think it's 5% of their annual GDP that they have to pay into it. In 2023, 3.49% of its GDP on defense, $860 billion. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm very curious to look into that more, but I'm not going to keep digging into that. But yeah, I think that's actually a fantastic idea. I think they should just consider cutting off NATO if they want to walk back on that. Then maybe we should walk back on our NATO obligations. All right, so this ought to be fun. From Rep. Eric Swallwell. I'm terribly sorry for the victims and victims' families of the Manhattan Massacre, not giving up on keeping most dangerous weapons out of the hands of most dangerous people. We should know when we send our kids to school that they'll come home, and our kids should see us off to work and know we will come home. I mean, dude, how is that not standing on the graves of those who were shot and killed? I mean, for real. Why are you turning this into a fucking gun violence political statement? Well, because he's a Democrat, and that's what Democrats do. Frankly, if every adult, since he likes to talk about adults, and I'm sure many of those adults in the building were parents, if they all had concealed firearms, then perhaps it would have been a much different outcome, especially if that's just in our normal society. Do you think that dude would have walked into an office building with an AR-15 or any firearm for that matter? Would he have walked into there with a firearm knowing that every employee in there most likely has a firearm? Probably not. But of course, that would fix the problem. And Democrats, they're not in favor of fixing problems. They just want to create more problems where there really shouldn't be any at all. All right, so from Rep. Mike Collins, on this day in history in 1945, the USS Indianapolis was sunk by a Japanese submarine after carrying the atomic bomb across the Pacific Ocean. This has it touches me directly because I was born in Indianapolis, actually. So the ship sunk in 12 minutes with 300 of its almost 1,200 person crew going down with it. The remaining 890 people, soldiers or seamen or whatnot, Navy men, they fought to survive for 4 days before the Navy learned of the catastrophic event. During this time, the crew faced saltwater poisoning, dehydration, and shark attacks. By the time they were rescued, there were only 316 survivors, making it the greatest loss at sea from a single ship in the history of the U.S. Navy, as well as the worst shark attack in history. That is fucking terrifying, man. Absolutely terrifying. Which I believe didn't they do a movie about this? I never saw it. I think frankly, it's pretty disrespectful, I think, to make a movie about it, especially showing... maybe it's not disrespectful. I don't know. I have a feeling that Hollywood probably romanticized the hell out of it and probably made it a lot gorier than it really should have been. But I didn't see it, but I'm pretty sure they did make a movie about this. Now, I know it took them a long time to find the USS Indianapolis. They just found it. It was less than 10 years ago. They found it somewhat recently after spending decades looking for it. But yeah, they eventually found it. There's actually a USS Indianapolis memorial in downtown Indianapolis. I mean, I've spent the majority of my life living outside of Indianapolis, but still, I've lived there long enough to know, the USS Indianapolis. So, pretty big deal. 1945. So, I'm bad with math, but I believe that's 80 years to the day, if I'm not mistaken. So, there you have it. Rest in peace to the soldiers, to the Navy men, the lost souls. All right, so... USA government news. Watch massive. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm just making sure if I did this or not. I wanted to get all the tsunami stuff out of the way at the beginning. That's why I'm just looking at this. So massive tsunami flooding hits eastern Russia after a devastating 8.8 earthquake. So let's see. It's 23 seconds, so I'm sure we've probably seen this earlier in a previous video. Well, no, actually, this is aerial footage. There's no audio. All right, so they're moving over. Looks like the water might be retreating. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It's heading back out to sea. I mean, hell, it probably hit so sudden by the time they got a bird up. It was it was receding at that point. Crazy, man. Crazy. I mean, that's just good to hear that nobody died. This is serious. Tsunami waves now hitting Hawaii. Prayers for everyone in the impact zone. Let's check this out. I'm most interested in the footage. I just want to see if they actually show the tsunami moving in. I don't really care to hear the anchors talking about it. I don't even think this is going to load. Now watch, like 5 minutes from now, it's just going to start blaring. All right, so let's move on. The United States Trade Representative. Thanks to President Trump's leadership, our trade deficit with China is projected to decline at least $50 billion this year. That's good news.
This is part of the reason why the president implemented his tariff program. Right now, if you look at the numbers,
a lot of money.
We're still tracking an annual trade deficit with China. But if you extrapolate it out from the numbers we have so far it looks like it's going to be at least $50 billion smaller this year. So that's some progress already. Good.
I mean, what is it normally, like $550 billion, somewhere along those lines? So yeah, $50,000 million. That's not small potatoes. All right, so Chad Mizell, congratulations to my friend and colleague Emil Bove on his confirmation to the Third Circuit. Emil is a dedicated public servant with a sharp legal mind and unbreakable integrity. He will make a strong addition to the federal bench. Nice. Look at that, 50 to 49, split directly along party lines. I mean, look, if Trump has anything to do with it, Democrats just by default, with their Trump derangement syndrome, they're just going to vote no matter what, no matter how much it might help the country. No, we can't have that. All right, so from the White House, due to a massive earthquake. All right, so we did that. Actually, I think I might have made it to the end. I did. We made it to the end, ladies and gentlemen. So that is all I have. And this went about an hour and a half. So it's kind of what I aim for. I kind of aim for about hour and a half. So anyway, if you like the video, please like and subscribe. And I'll be back with another one tomorrow. A whole nother list of the goings-on in the D.C. swamp. We'll see what the government's up to tomorrow and what our politicians are getting into. Hopefully more good than bad. So until then, thank you so much for watching, and God bless America.